yourself.
Kamusta tayo ngayon, Toronto?
Picture this for a second. A woman ranked 1,020th in the entire world, playing in front of maybe 40 people at some forgettable futures event, fighting through qualifying rounds just to keep her career technically alive after a surgically repaired elbow that had already betrayed her once. And 9 months later, that same woman is standing across the net from a reigning Wimbledon champion and beating her. Sit with that for a second, because nothing that happened in Toronto this week makes any sense until you understand exactly who's waiting in the next round. And that's why I'm not even starting with the match everyone's talking about. I'm starting with the one nobody saw coming. Alex Yala did exactly what she was supposed to do on Wednesday. She took down Alicia Parks in 3 sets, 6-1, 4-6, 6-2, and advanced around 3 of the National Bank Open. And on the surface, that looks like a tidy, professional win against someone who'd beaten her before. But if you actually watched it, tidy is the last word you'd reach for, because buried inside that scoreline is a warning sign that's going to matter enormously by Saturday. Let's rewind and set the scene properly. This was billed as a revenge match before a ball was even struck. Parks had beaten Yala back in January at the Australian Open in straight sets, 6-3, 6-2, and everyone, including me, packaged Wednesday's rematch as a redemption story waiting to be written. And for one set, Yala delivered exactly that script. She came out and dismantled Parks 6-1, dictating rallies from the center court, controlling depth, playing the exact brand of tennis that carried her to a title at the DC Open just 2 weeks earlier. Then, almost like someone flipped a switch, the match changed shape entirely. Parks found her range, started taking the ball early and flat, robbing Yala time, and ran off 6 games before to level things up. Yala needed a full third set just close the door, eventually doing so 6-2, and look, a win is a win, and she's through. But that middle set collapse isn't something you can just wave away, because it's going to be extremely relevant to what happens this weekend. The real headline isn't Yala advances. The real headline is that Yala has a very specific vulnerability, and it surfaces the moment an opponent starts hitting flat and taking the ball early, denying her the rhythm she thrives on. Hold on to that thought, because it's about to become the entire story. While that was unfolding on one court, something almost unbelievable was happening on the grandstand court in the other half of the draw. Linda Noskova, 3 weeks removed from lifting the Venus Rosewater dish at Wimbledon, stepped onto a hard court for first time as a Grand Slam champion, and ran directly into a buzzsaw she clearly hadn't scouted closely enough. That buzzsaw was Caty McNally, the same player we opened with, and things started about as badly as they possibly could. MCN found herself down 5 games to 1 in the opening set against a woman who, 3 weeks prior, had just beaten Karolina Machova in a major final. That's not the kind of deficit players climb out of. That's the kind of deficit that ends matches quietly and without much fuss. Except MCN didn't let it end quietly. She won 6 straight games. 6. She forced a tiebreak and closed out by winning 4 of the last 6 points, several of them on Noskova's own serve, stealing a set that by every reasonable measure should have already been gone. And here's the part that actually stopped me in my tracks. Instead of running out of gas after clawing back from the brink of a straight set beatdown, MCN somehow found another level entirely. She won the second set 6-1. Noskova, visibly rattled, landed barely a third of her first serves in that set. This wasn't a gutsy survival story. This was something closer to a statement. Except statement when doesn't even begin to describe what actually happened on that court. Because what we watched was a player essentially announcing that whatever injury derailed her career back in 2023 never touched the part of her that knows how to compete when everything's on the line. Now here's where I want to slow everything down, because this is the piece of the story that every mainstream preview is going to completely miss. MCN's comeback isn't just some feel-good injury narrative you slap on a highlight reel. It fundamentally changed the way she plays tennis. Think about what actually happens when a player spends over a year rebuilding an elbow after a torn ligament. You simply cannot go back to throwing the same violent, repetitive load through that joint that you did before the surgery. You're forced to adapt. You start hunting for variety, for touch, for angles, for anything that takes mechanical stress off full extension ground strokes hit at. Maximum pace, over and over, point after grinding point. And that adaptation is exactly what MCN's game has become. She slices constantly now, skinning that backhand low across the court to strip opponents of any rhythm. She chips instead of driving. She comes forward behind approach shots rather than settling into long baseline trades. At Wimbledon this year, she was the only player in the entire draw to take a set off the eventual champion, and she did it using precisely this formula, cutting low slices through grass, closing the net behind them, putting away volleys against opponents who genuinely had no answer because nobody plays this way anymore. So think, for a second, about what that specific skill set means for Yala, given everything we just watched happen against Parks. Yala's entire game is built on rhythm. She wants pace fed to her so she can redirect it, using an opponent's own racket speed against them, generating spin numbers well above the tour average. Whenever she gets the ball, she can really load into and drive. When Parks started flattening her shots out and taking time away in that second set, we watched Yala's footwork get a step late, her preparation get compressed, her contact point drift back toward her body instead of out in front. That's what a pace problem looks like on a tennis court. But MCN isn't a pace problem. MCN is a rhythm problem. And those are two completely different diseases requiring two completely different remedies. And I'd argue the rhythm problem is by far the harder one to solve in the middle of a match, because you can't simply out-hit variety the way you can out-hit pace. There's no perfect historical blueprint for this exact stylistic collision, but there's definitely an echo of it if you go looking. Rewind to the early 2000s and think about how many of that era's biggest, cleanest ball strikers absolutely wilted against old-school slice and serve volley throwbacks who simply refused to give them anything to load into. Justine Henin built a huge chunk of her legacy on being willing to do the unfashionable thing, that low, biting backhand slice included, whenever the matchup demanded it. Low percentage on paper, but devastating in practice, because rhythm-dependent players need rhythm to survive, and once you take it away, they genuinely fall apart. MCN, whether by deliberate design or simply as a byproduct of surgical necessity, is playing a version of tennis that's largely vanished from the modern WTA Tour, and she's playing at the exact moment it happens to be brutally effective against a flat, high-spin, first-strike game that's become the sport's new standard. That's not some nostalgic aside for the commentary booth. That alive, pressing tactical problem, sitting directly in Yala's path to Saturday. Now here's the twist that reframes the entire preview. Because my first instinct, and probably yours too, was to assume Yala walks into Saturday fresher, given that her match wrapped up in 3 efficient sets on Wednesday morning, while MCN was still out there 3 hours later, grinding through an emotional roller coaster against a Grand Slam champion. That's the obvious physical load argument, right? Except it completely falls apart once you check the calendar, because this match doesn't happen until Saturday. That's 2 full days for MCN to recover from an ordeal that was every bit as psychological as it was physical, clawing back from 1 game to 5 against a major champion, in front of a crowd that had every reason in the world to expect her to fold and go quietly. 2 days is more than enough time for the legs to recover. And the thing about that kind of adrenaline surge, the belief that comes from pulling off something nobody thought was possible, is that it doesn't fade the way muscle soreness does. If anything, it tends to compound. I genuinely argue MCN steps onto that court Saturday carrying more self-belief right now than Yala does after watching her own control slip away for an entire set against Parks just 2 days earlier. That's the hidden variable nobody's pricing into this matchup yet. This isn't some tired underdog limping in against a fresh, well-rested favorite. This is a player in the middle of riding the single biggest win of her comeback, walking straight into an opponent who just revealed the exact stylistic crack that could be exploited to devastating effect. So where does Yala actually hold an edge here? Because she does have one, and it's not nothing. It comes down to depth. MCN slice-heavy game generates all sorts of variety, but it simply doesn't generate depth the way a flat, driven ball does. If Yala can resist the temptation to redirect pace that isn't actually there, and instead manufacture her own by stepping inside the baseline and attacking short slices on a rise rather than letting them sit and die at her feet, she can turn MCN's greatest weapon into an open invitation to attack. The danger is patience, or rather the lack of it. Yala has to be willing to construct points methodically instead of ending them early, and that patience isn't always her first instinct once someone's already stripped away her rhythm. Return positioning is likely going to decide the opening 4 or 5 games of this entire match. MCN's serve, to be clear, isn't a weapon in the traditional big hitting sense. There's no huge first strike number attached to it, but the disguise she's built into it plays directly into that same variety theme we've been circling this whole time. Yala needs to commit fully to a return position and avoid getting caught guessing between a kick serve out wide and a flat one down the tee, because hesitation against a variety player is exactly how you end up permanently a half step behind, which, not coincidentally, is precisely the pattern that cost her the second set against Parks. So here's my tactical read, and I'm going to get specific with it. Keep an eye on Yala's cross-court forehand in the very first exchanges of set one. If she's using it early and aggressively to push MCN off the deuce court and open up the ad side before MCN can establish net position, that tells you her coaching staff has already identified the exact rhythm disruption issue we just spent this whole video breaking down. If instead you see long, extended baseline rallies with Yala sitting back and waiting for pace that simply never arrives, that's a version of this match where MCN's comeback story gets its next unforgettable chapter, and a player ranked outside the top 60 walks away, having knocked out both a Grand Slam champion and a Masters 1000 finalist in the same tournament back-to-back. Personally, I lean toward Yala getting through this one in 3 sets, but only barely, and honestly only because of what I've watched from her over the last 3 months. A player who adjusts mid-match better than almost anyone else her age currently on tour. But make no mistake, if MCN's slice keeps biting the way it did at Wimbledon, and Yala can't force herself to be patient early, this preview could age very badly by Saturday afternoon. And if it does, we'll be talking about Caty MCN's run through Toronto as one of the great redemption stories of the entire season.